These three coins, yes, ordinary-looking coins, two $quarter and one dime, sold for more than $77,000 at auctions because they had minting errors that made them rare. So without wasting any time, let's start the video and show you which minting errors can turn ordinary coins into coins worth thousands of dollars. This coin once sold for over $13,000, but here's what they didn't tell you. It started its life as pocket change, loose metal, junk in a jar. So what happened? What invisible crack in reality turned 25 cents into a month's rent? A tiny mint mark, and one mistake so small you need a microscope to find it. But don't lean forward yet, because the real story isn't the price, it's how this coin almost never existed at all. The year is 2016. America is obsessed with memory. The National Park Series is in full swing. Every quarter that drops from a vending machine feels like a postcard from somewhere wild. Yellowstone, Mount Rushmore, Harper's Ferry, a small town in West Virginia where the Potomac and Shenandoah rivers collide. A place where John Brown's raid lit a fuse under American history. In 1859, an abolitionist and his small army seized the federal armory. They wanted to end slavery with gunpowder and courage. It didn't work, but the echo never stopped. So the U.S. Mint decided to honor that ground, that stone bridge, that old brick fort. They hired a designer named Thomas Hipshin, a man who had engraved portraits of presidents, and he carved a quarter showing John Brown's fort. Quiet, dignified, a monument to a moment. But here's where things take a strange turn. The Mint struck these quarters in three places: Philadelphia, Denver, San Francisco. Most of them came out perfect, clean, boring, worth exactly 25 cents. But the Denver Mint, the one with the big D stamped next to Washington's ponytail, did something unusual. They made a mistake. Not a big one, not a smashed die or a flipped collar. Something smaller, almost invisible. The D Mint mark. On a normal Harper's Ferry quarter, the D sits under the words, "In God We Trust." Clean, sharp, unremarkable. But on a handful of these coins, maybe a few thousand, maybe fewer, the D is punched twice. A double mint mark. You won't see it without a loupe. In fact, most collectors missed it for years. They held these quarters, spent them on gum, dropped them in toll booths, had no idea they were holding a ghost. One day, a dealer in the Midwest cracked open a roll of uncirculated 2016 quarters from the Denver Mint. He was looking for perfect surfaces, high grades. Instead, he found something else. Under magnification, the D looked like it had a shadow, a faint, floating twin just to the left, a doubled mint mark. He froze. His heart rate didn't, because he knew the last time a doubled mint mark appeared on a modern quarter, prices went vertical. This is where the obsession begins. See, coin collectors are not calm people. Behind the magnifying glasses and white gloves, they are treasure hunters. Every pocket of change is a lottery ticket. Every bankroll is a mystery box. They live for the moment when ordinary metal turns into mythology. So when word of the double D got out, the hunt started, and it spread like a fever. People bought metal detectors. They drove to Denver. They ordered boxes of quarters from banks, sat at kitchen tables at 2 a.m., checking each coin under bright lights. Spouses asked, "Are you coming to bed?" They answered, "Not yet. There's another roll." And here's the cruel part. Most of those quarters were worthless, just normal metal. But every once in a while, click, a doubled mint mark, a tiny D with a ghost next to it. And that click is a drug, because the value jumps from 25 cents to $50, then 200, then 1,000 to dun. But the highest recorded sale? That took something else. Before we reach the top, you need to understand the other errors that live inside this coin, because the double D is not alone. The Harper's Ferry quarter has a family of mistakes, and each one is a different kind of explosion. First error, die crack. This happens when the metal die, the stamp that punches the design, develops a hairline fracture from stress. When that die hits a plancher, it leaves a raised, jagged line across the coin. On a Harper's Ferry quarter, die cracks often appear near the fort's roof. Looks like lightning hitting history. Value? About $75? Not life-changing, but thrilling. Second error, off-center strike. Imagine feeding a sheet of metal into a press, but the sheet slips. The die hits off-center. Part of the design is missing. Part of the blank edge shows. The more off-center, the more valuable. A 10% off-center Harper's Ferry quarter? Around $150? A 40% off-center where you can barely see John Brown's fort? Now you're at $400. Third error, double die. This is different from a doubled mint mark. A doubled die means the entire design, the letters, the date, the building, shows ghosting, like a camera with a shaky hand. The mint accidentally used a die that was engraved twice at slightly different angles. The result? Words look blurry, numbers look drunk. A strong double die on a Harper's Ferry quarter can hit $1-800. Fourth error, brockage. This is rare, terrifyingly rare. A brockage happens when a struck coin gets stuck to the die. The next blank plancher comes in, and instead of hitting a smooth die, it hits the face of another coin. So the design gets pressed in mirror image. Backwards, upside down. A brockage error on this quarter is so unusual that only 3 are known to exist. One sold for $4,200. If you have ever checked your pocket change, this might be the moment you start. Fifth error, lamination error. Before the coin is struck, the metal strip has impurities, air bubbles, dirt. When the die hits, the surface flakes off, skin peeling from metal. Looks like the quarter is diseased. But collectors love disease. A dramatic lamination error, especially with original mint luster, can fetch $6,500, but none of these are the one. The one that sold for $13,000. It wasn't a die crack. It wasn't off-center. It was the double D, but with a twist. That coin wasn't just any double D. It was graded MS68 by PCGS. MS68 means perfect, almost flawless. No scratches, no dings, no discoloration. On a modern quarter, MS68 is a miracle. Most come out of the mint at MS65 or MS66. To hit MS68, the coin had to be handled by angels. Now combine MS68 with the doubled mint mark, and here's the kicker. The D on that coin wasn't just doubled, it was tripled. 3 impressions of the mint mark, stacked like ghosts. A major auction house listed it. Bidding started at $2,500, then $5,000, then $9,000. 2 anonymous bidders pushed it past $12,000. Final hammer, $13,000. For a quarter, for something that could have been spent on a soda. And if you think that's impressive, wait until you see what happened next. Because the next coin has no mint mark at all, and it's sold for more than 3 times that amount. A dime, 10 cents, smaller than your thumbnail, lighter than a paperclip, and someone paid $21,000 for one. Not for a gold coin, not for something from a shipwreck. A 1995 dime made of copper and nickel, stamped with Franklin Roosevelt's profile. The same dime you'd leave as a tip on a $2 coffee. So what made this dime worth more than a used car? A single letter. And a mistake that should have been impossible. The year is 1995. The internet is waking up. America Online is sending CDs in the mail. People are learning to type www with awkward fingers, and the U.S. Mint is quietly producing billions of dimes. The Roosevelt design, created in 1946 by John R. Sinek, has been around for nearly 50 years. Roosevelt's profile still looks stern. The torch on the reverse still stands for liberty. Nothing has changed. But everything was about to change. The Philadelphia Mint, The big one, the original, the one that had been making coins since 1792, was using a new process. They had automated the mint mark punching. A machine was supposed to stamp the P onto every die. Clean, precise, boring. Then the machine malfunctioned. But not the way you think. It didn't forget the P. It did something stranger. It punched the P twice. Not stacked, not doubled like the Harper's Ferry quarter. Something different. Something that would take collectors 18 years to notice. In 2013, a dealer in Florida was sorting through a bag of 90 dimes. He had bought them from an estate sale. Thousands of coins, hours of work. His eyes were tired. Then, he saw it. On the reverse of one dime, near the torch, there was a tiny P floating in the field. A mint mark in the wrong place. Not next to Roosevelt's neck. Not on the front at all. The P was on the back, and it was sitting there like an intruder. He almost dropped his loupe because mint marks are never on the reverse. Never, not in modern U.S. coinage. The PDS, they always live on the obverse. The front, Washington's side, Roosevelt's side, always. But this dime had a P stamped on the reverse, and when he looked closer, he saw something even stranger. The P wasn't alone. There was a faint second P just above it. A double reverse mint mark. He had found a coin that shouldn't exist. Word spread through the coin forums like a chemical fire. People didn't believe it at first. Then photos surfaced. Then a video. Then PCGS confirmed it. A genuine mint error. A misplaced doubled reverse mint mark on a 1995 P dime. Suddenly, every 1995 dime became suspicious. Collectors bought them by the thousand. Banks got calls demanding rolls of 1995 dimes. Couples argued about it at dinner. You spent how much on dimes? One man in Ohio drove to 6 banks in one day. He found nothing. Then he drove to a 7th. He asked for any 1995 dimes in the vault. The teller gave him 2 rolls. He opened them in the parking lot. 10th coin, a reverse P. He screamed. The teller called security. That coin sold for $3,500 raw, ungraded, untouched. The 1995 dime has a whole ecosystem of errors, each one a different kind of electricity. First error, die crack. On the reverse, die cracks often run through the torch flame. Looks like the fire is cracking the metal. A common error. Value? Around $40. Good for beginners. Second error, off-center strike. A 1995 dime struck 15% off-center still shows Roosevelt's full face. That's the sweet spot. One sold for $210 because the off-center revealed the blank edge, and the blank edge was perfect. No scratches, no fingerprints. Pristine. Third error, double die. The 1995 double die is famous. Look at the word Liberty. On a normal dime, it's crisp. On the double die, the letters split. 2 outlines on every character. Looks like old 3D glasses. A strong double die graded MS66 brought $950. Fourth error, brockage. On a dime, brockages are vanishingly rare. The planche is so small, the press so fast, that stuck coins usually fall off. But one 1995 brockage survived. The reverse shows Roosevelt's face impressed backward, like he's looking at himself from inside the mirror. That coin sold for $4,800. Fifth error, lamination error. On a 1995 dime, lamination errors create deep, skin-like peeling. One collector found a dime where Roosevelt's entire hairline had flaked off. He looked bald. The coin was hideous, and that's exactly why it sold for $7,200, because beauty is boring, flaws are stories. But none of these are the one. If you have ever checked your pocket change and felt that tiny spark of hope, this next part is for you. The $21,000 1995 dime was not a double die, not a brockage, not a lamination. It was the reverse P, the misplaced mint mark. But here's the detail that made it worth a fortune. That dime had 2 reverse Ps, one bold, one faint, and it was graded MS-68. MS-68 on a dime is almost impossible. Dimes are tiny, they scratch easily, they slip against each other in mint bags. To get an MS-68, the coin had to be struck perfectly, handled by someone wearing clouds, and never touched by human skin again. In 2021, that dime went to auction. The bidding war lasted 45 minutes. A collector in Switzerland wanted it for his error set. A dealer in New York wanted it to flip. A museum curator wanted it for exhibit. The Swiss collector won. $21,000. Wire transfer. No hesitation. 3 coins, 3 mistakes, 30 years of hidden treasure sitting in drawers, jars, and parking meters. And here's the final shock. There are more out there. Right now, today, in someone's change, on a dresser, in a cup holder. Waiting. So the only question left is, are you going to keep spending your change without looking? Or is today the day you start hunting? If you made it this far, you're not just watching, you're searching. Hit like if you've ever found something strange in your pocket. Subscribe if you want the next treasure map before anyone else. And comment the word doubled if you're about to check every dime in your house tonight. Because the next coin I reveal sold for over $100,000, and you've probably held one. A quarter with no mint mark sold for $43,000. Let that land. No D, no S, just blank space where a letter should live. And that blank space is exactly why collectors lost their minds. But here's the secret they don't tell you in the price guides. This coin was never supposed to reach the public. It was an error born from exhaustion, metal fatigue, and one worker who didn't check the die before pressing start. The year is 1991. The Cold War has just collapsed. The Soviet Union is gasping its last breath. America feels victorious, tired, and strangely anxious. The economy is limping. A recession is biting. People are counting change more carefully than they have in years. And the U.S. Mint is working overtime. Philadelphia, Denver, San Francisco, all 3 facilities are pumping out quarters by the millions. The design is still John Flanagan's George Washington, the same profile that debuted in 1932, the same ponytail, same stern lips, same metal alloy, 91.67% copper, 8.33% nickel. Nothing fancy, no silver, just everyday business. But here's where the story twists. In 1991, the Philadelphia Mint was supposed to put a P on every quarter. That was the rule. Since 1980, the P Mint mark had appeared on every coin made in Philly except the penny. So collectors expected it. They looked for it. They took it for granted. Then a roll of 1991 quarters showed up at a coin show in Baltimore. A dealer named Leonard had bought them from a bank in Pennsylvania. He cracked the roll, checked the first coin. No P. Checked the second. No P. Checked all 40. No P. He didn't scream, but he wanted to. Because a coin with a missing mint mark isn't just an error. It's a rebellion, a piece of metal that refused to follow orders. How does a mint mark disappear? It's not magic. It's human failure. At the Philadelphia Mint, each die is hand-punched with the P before it goes into the press. An experienced engraver takes a steel punch and strikes it next to the date. One hit, clean, done. But on the day those 1991 quarters were made, someone forgot. Or maybe they were distracted. Maybe they were tired. Maybe they punched the wrong die. The truth has never come out. What we know is this: a single obverse die. The one with Washington's face made it into the press without a mint mark. That die struck hundreds of quarters before anyone noticed. By the time a quality control inspector saw the mistake, the coins were already in bags, already shipped, already mixed with normal quarters. Most of them disappeared into circulation, spent on coffee, tossed in ashtrays, lost in sofa cushions. But a few remained in unopened mint rolls, and those rolls became legend. Now let me tell you what this does to a human brain. When you know a coin exists but you can't find it, the hunt consumes you. You start seeing mint marks everywhere. You flip every quarter in your pocket. You ask cashiers if they have any old rolls in the back. You lie awake wondering if you already held one and didn't know it. The early 2000s, a forum post appeared online. Someone claimed they found a 1991 no-P quarter in a laundromat change machine. The thread exploded, over 200 comments in 3 hours. People offered to buy it on the spot for $500. The poster never responded. That's the cruelty of treasure. Sometimes it finds you. Sometimes it just taunts you. The 1991 quarter has other secrets, other mistakes, each one a different flavor of chaos. First error, die crack. On the reverse, the eagle side, die cracks often appear crossing the wingtips, thin raised lines that look like broken veins. A 1991 quarter with a prominent die crack sells for around $60. Fun to find, not life-changing. Second error, off-center strike. Here's where it gets interesting. An off-center 1991 quarter with the date fully visible and mint mark missing? That's 2 errors in one. Collectors call it a double whammy. One sold at auction for $320 because the off-center was 25% and the no-P condition made it freakishly rare. Third error, double die. The 1991 double die is subtle. Look at the word Liberty. On a normal coin, the letters are crisp. On a double die, they have extra thickness on the left side, like bold text trying to be normal. A strong double die, 1991 quarter-graded MS65 brought $100 at Heritage Auctions. Fourth error, brockage. Remember this from the first coin? A brockage on a 1991 quarter is almost unheard of. Only 2 certified examples exist. One shows Washington's face pressed backward into the reverse. Looks like a ghost staring at you from inside the metal. That coin sold for $3,700. But before we reveal the rarest version, make sure you're subscribed because what's coming next might surprise you. Fifth error, lamination error. On a 1991 quarter, lamination errors are dramatic. The metal flakes off in chunks, leaving deep pits. One collector found a 1991 quarter where the entire word trust had peeled away. Just gone. The coin looked like it had been in a fire. That error sold for $5,200 because the remaining surfaces were nearly perfect. A study in destruction and beauty. None of these are the $43,000 coin. The one that shattered records was a 1991 quarter with no mint mark, but also with a perfect strike, perfect luster, and perfect surfaces. Graded MS67 Plus by NGC. Only 3 examples have ever reached that grade. In 2018, one of them went to auction. The catalog description was 4 words: missing mint mark, extraordinary. Bidding opened at $10,000. A dealer from Texas bid $15,000. A collector from Japan bid $22,000. Then a hedge fund manager who collects errors for psychological thrill bid $30,000. The Texas dealer came back at $35,000. Japan raised to $38,000. Then the hedge fund blinked. Final price, $43,000 for a quarter with no letter. And you think that's shocking? Wait until you meet the smallest coin on this list. A dime, a tiny sliver of metal that sold for $21,000 because of one letter. One invisible mistake and a secret the mint tried to bury.